So we're going to go through all kinds of awesome modifiers. I brought in just about everything I own, and then we rented some stuff for this class just to show you some different varieties of modifiers. But the most important thing when you're thinking about flash modifiers is understanding how does that modifier impact your style. And I'm going to be talking a lot about this today. Is about what's the feeling that you want to create in the photo, and then what's the modifier you should choose to do that. Some of the modifiers are very difficult to use, like a beauty dish. It's hard to use a beauty dish well. Other modifiers are like easy to use, like the giant umbrella. So I'll just show you what they all look like. We're going to take a bunch of photos here so you get a feel for what those modifiers do in the real world. But I think it's probably time just to kind of get into it. So as you're putting together your studio, you're thinking, all right, I know Mike said I got to have a key light. Well, what do I put on that key light? Do I put an umbrella? Do I use the key light with a softbox? And if so, why? Why would I use that softbox? What's the important thing about it? What do I need to know? What about the fill light? Should the fill be down low? Should it be up high? Should it be big? Should it be small? Should it be snoot? Should it be a grid? Should it be a hard light, soft light? So all of these things are going through our minds. And when you're starting out in your photography career, or you're starting out in your amateur photography in the garage, you just don't really know. And you can't spend all the money, right? Because all of this stuff costs money. Um, at the very low end, you've got umbrellas, and they're 15 bucks a piece, so they're not that expensive. And at the very high end, you've got these giant soft boxes or these giant parabolic umbrellas, and they can run anywhere from $400 to $4,000 or even more. I was just pricing out this big parabolic umbrella the other day. It was like $7,000. I'm like, I guess I didn't need that as bad as I thought I needed it. So let's go through and describe the different types of modifiers. And to do that, we're going to go off to this side of the studio where I've got all the toys. And we'll start going through. The first thing that I want to demonstrate or talk about are umbrellas. Okay. Since this is an introduction class, I'm going to forget. So you guys don't let me forget. I'm putting that right there. Okay. So since this is an introduction class, I'm just going to talk about a little bit about the gear that it stands on, and then we'll get right into the products. So this is just a light stand. You're going to see I've got basically 3 types of light stands today. I've got low stands, and those are hidden in back. I'll pull those out in a little bit. Those low stands are very low. We use those a lot of times for background lights. This is a traditional light stand here. These vary in height from maybe about a 6-foot high maximum height up to maybe 12 or 13 feet high. You're going to need a variety of these. If most of your people are going to end up sitting on a stool, then about the highest height that you're going to need is about 6 feet. I'm 6 feet tall, so you can see that this light stand goes right at my head. If people are standing, you're going to need light stands that will go even higher than 6 feet. So I like purchasing 10-foot, 11-foot light stands, maybe even 12-foot. Problem is they get a little bit more expensive the higher you go. I've got a number of those bigger light stands over here today, and we'll be using those. But if I'm photographing someone who's 6 foot 4 inches tall, your light has to go at least a foot or two above their head so you can get the nice shadowing on the face that you're after, okay? So there's a light stand. And then every type of light stand, you have to have some type of unit, some type of product to connect the umbrella or the softbox to the stand. So this is an umbrella bracket. And in a little while, when I show softboxes, I'll show you the softbox speed rings that work for this. But you just need some type of device that does that. This is made out of nylon. I've got other ones that are made out of metal, and these cost anywhere from maybe $12 all the way up to maybe $25. The umbrella basically just slides right in there, okay? Super simple. Umbrella goes right in there, and then it's got this little lock screw that you tighten that down. Then what we need to do is we need to have a way to get your flash to attach to the stand. And in this case, in fact, most cases, there's a little stud. So this little brass stud, and that brass stud will then screw into the bottom of some type of system. In this case, I've got that peanut, and it screws into there, and then that goes into the top of the umbrella bracket. And you'll see today I'm going to use a variety of ways to connect my flashes. Most of the time, if you're buying the stuff on eBay, Amazon, or at any camera store, you're just going to find what's called a speed light adapter. If you buy the speed light adapter, that's going to allow you to use your little flash inside of this big old expensive modifier. So all of my modifiers that I buy, I make sure that they're compatible with both my speed lights and my studio lights. And so I typically will buy that speed light adapter. This umbrella, this is a Pro Photo umbrella, and it's a white S. The S stands for small, so this is a small umbrella. Um, most people, most photographers over the years find out that you need to really get bigger. Everything about your modifiers needs to be bigger. So even though the pricing on the small modifiers is appealing, you're going to be disappointed in the long run if you buy all small umbrellas. This came basically for free with my Pro Photo kit. They just throw them into the kit. But when I go out and buy my own umbrellas, I'm buying the big umbrellas like this one back here. So this umbrella, I think, is a 6-foot diameter umbrella, maybe. Yeah, so this umbrella is wonderful. The bigger the umbrella you buy, the happier you're going to be. This covers all kinds of sins in your studio arrangements. The light is huge. It wraps all around the subject. It's soft. It's comfortable. It just feels good. Honestly, if all I could do was buy like 2 lighting modifiers, I'd buy 2 of these umbrellas. They are fantastic. And I'll show you in just a little bit why they work so well. Let's talk about the inside of the umbrellas. Let me pull this big guy out. Try not to whack the camera. All right, so we've got silver, and then we got white. So which should you buy? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't always have the answer. If you're just going to buy one, I recommend the white umbrella. The white is the most versatile, easiest to use. It doesn't cause a lot of kind of shininess on the subject's face. These silvery umbrellas, a lot of times, they're a harsher, harder look. And that's appealing sometimes. Sometimes you want the look to look harsher and harder. You want the shadows to be harder. Some people have oily skin. And if you have oily skin, you don't always want a really shiny reflective surface because that can be unappealing in that final photograph. So if you're just going to buy one style of umbrella, I recommend white. Now there's both of these umbrellas, you can see that the flash basically fires into the umbrella and then back onto the subject. So it's obvious, but you want the umbrella's face to be pointed at the subject. You know, you're not going to shoot this way with the umbrella because no light's going to get through. There's other umbrellas that you do shoot through. Let me grab one of those real quick. This was the very first umbrella I ever bought. It's my sad little umbrella. It's been around the block. It's been with me. I've been a professional photographer for about 20 years, and I bought this a long time ago. It's fallen on the ground, it's bent up, I still use it sometimes because it's a shoot through umbrella. So, in other words, you can shoot through it, and the difference in light between a shoot through and a reflect off the back, not that much of a difference. It's subtle, but not significant. So don't get too caught up in whether or not your umbrella, you've probably seen them if you've shopped for umbrellas. They've got the types that you can take off the cover and it can transform between a shoot through or reflect off the back. I don't think it's that important. Just pick one and start shooting with it. What are the good things about umbrellas? Well, they're small. Someone asked this morning, how small does the umbrella fold down to? Well, it's this big. It's tiny. So you can put that along with your light stand and carry the whole thing around in your hand, and you've got a portable lighting kit that will go with you anywhere in the world. When I travel, I do a lot of trips to Africa, or maybe I'm just taking my family and we go to Hawaii, let's say. Everyone always wants portraits on the beach, or sometimes I'll shoot portraits of the Maasai warriors in Tanzania. Well, I can guarantee you this, I'm not taking a big, huge softbox and a big 12-foot high light stand. No, I'm taking a small light stand, one or two little umbrellas and some speed lights, and I can do great portraiture on location anywhere in the world. So bigger is better. I've just mentioned these two. These are about, I would say, 30-inch umbrellas. That's my guess, 30-inch, small, tiny. This one here, let me grab this guy. This is a 42-inch umbrella. This is the bare minimum. Okay, this one's made by a company called Photoflex. I've used Photoflex gear for a long, long time. And this specific umbrella is probably 15 years old. It's a 42-inch. This is the bare minimum size I think you should buy if you're working out of a studio, 42. So if you're going to get maybe two umbrellas for your studio, I'd recommend like a 42-inch white and then maybe a 5-foot or 6-foot or even 7-foot umbrella, also white. I brought the silver one in here today just to show you the different look, but white is a lot easier to work with. Okay, so and there's one other thing. There's other colors like gold. Don't do that. If you're starting out in photography, don't get a gold color umbrella. You're only going to use it one time in your career, maybe two times in your career, and they're designed to have a very specific look. It's kind of a fashion industry look, and most people don't look really good with heavy gold coloring on their face. You have to be awfully pale in order for that to look well. So just get white, you'll be happy. So let me shoot a few portraits with these umbrellas, get a feel for what the different sizes do and how they look. I haven't picked on you yet. All right, so we're gonna have you sit on that, and I'm gonna start with the small umbrella. Just push this offset just a little bit, and we'll use this setup. So let me start with the small one. Okay, throw this in there like that. And for triggering today, I'm going to use those little Yongyuos, those little Chinese radio triggers, okay? And for the flash, this is my Nikon SB910, okay? So I'm going to set this guy up. It's going to be set to manual mode, and then I've got that little Yongyuo on there to trigger it. So this could be a very inexpensive flash that you bought on eBay or Amazon or at your local camera store. And I'm going to turn this guy on. We'll set the mode to, okay, there we go. Turn this on and set the mode to manual output. And then I'm going to set the power. I'm just going to start off the power to 1/8. We'll go 1/8 power, okay? So manual flash, 1/8 power, and then radio trigger here on this little guy. I turn that guy on, and I know the camera can't see it because it's obscured, but it says it's in channel 1, group A, okay? Now I have to find a way to put that here on my light stand, and the bottom of the Yongyuo just has a typical what we call a hot shoe attachment. So I have to find some way to get this thing on there. And I'm going to use one of those little black feet that I have. Just got a bunch of them over here. Just like that. So that goes on there. Screw that thing down so it doesn't fall off. It's all stable. And then I'll put it here on my brass stud into the light stand. And we're good to go. So because we're radio trigger, I don't have to think about which direction the flash is pointed, which, it's a receiver, because the flash isn't doing any receiving. The little radio trigger is doing the receiving. Okay. I'll move this over here so y'all can see what that looks like. Now, positioning that flash, you typically want to position the key light a little bit above the person's head and a little bit in front if you're just using one. Because when you position it in front, we're getting a little bit of wrap around the side, and we're getting kind of the nice catch light up in the top part of the eye. If you have two lights, then you can split the lights a little bit more, and we're going to get into positioning in much more detail. But because we are just using one, I'll just kind of keep it there in the front.
How do you keep your umbrellas from flying away when you shoot outdoors? Diana says, I've tried to use them outdoors, and just a little bit of wind is usually a disaster with an umbrella.
Yeah. So traveling light means that you don't want to carry a lot of extra gear with you, like sandbags and all that good stuff. But sometimes you just have to travel with sandbags. And so a couple of tips that I have for you. One is I will often take some straps, some like nylon straps, and I will tie down my camera bag to my light stand to add extra weight on the light stand. Or I'll just hang, like most camera bags have a handle, I'll just hang that handle somewhere on the camera stand. Alternatively, you can bring these little ditty bags, little nylon bags, and just fill them up with rocks on location. So if there's rocks or sand, just fill it up and then hang it from your light stand. And then, a lot of times when we're out shooting photos, we're there with maybe a mother and her kids. The mom can a lot of times just hold on to that light stand while you're photographing your kids. So employ your human-powered light stand holders to just get in there and just weight it down. So, okay, let's see if we're back up and running here. We'll go to tethered capture, start tethered capture again. Everything is good there. No camera detected. Now it is detected. And another shot. Please go in. Yes. Yay. We're good. Okay. Now it's for real. You ready for this? Yes, sir. All right. So I'm going to have you kind of point your knees off that way, and you're going to look at me. All right, cool. So let's take this shot for real. Shot number one. You're very serious, which is good. So that indicates to me as we're getting to know each other here, I'm starting to learn about his personality. And that's important. It's important when choosing lights, because now that I know his personality a little bit more, I can start thinking, oh, you know what? He would be more in line with a giant umbrella, or maybe a harsher type of light. All right, so how are we looking for brightness on that photo inside a Lightroom? I'd say it's a little hot, wouldn't you? Just a little bit bright. So I'm going to reduce the power. And because we're all manual here, I'm just going to set that down. I was at 1/8 power. I'm going to drop it about 2/3 of a stop. So I go to minus 0.7. So I'm now at 1/8 power minus 2/3. So I'm 2/3 of a stop below 1/8 power. All right, here we go. So take that same picture again. Does that light feel about the same distance? Okay, and that's one of the keys is, and when you're using manual flash, you don't want to change or vary the lighting position, because that messes up your calculations. It messes up, it's not standard anymore. It's variable. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So this is going to be a little bit better. Yeah, that's more better. All right, cool. So that is with the ProPhoto White Small. So let's take basically the same photo, and this time I'm going to use a 42-inch umbrella. Let's get a feel for what that one looks like. And one of the other things I love about these is they're so quick to take down and put up. So that one on. So this is a 42-inch. I'm trying to get it so the positioning is about the same distance away. And yep, it's a bigger umbrella, so it can't be exactly the same position. It obscures the lens. All right, 1, 2, 3. So let's compare those two, eh? So the one on the left is the smaller umbrella, and the one on the right is the bigger umbrella. You can see the one on the left has a little bit harsher shadow. Okay, just a little bit darker shadow. The one on the right wrapped a little bit more around his body, a little bit more around his face. Cool. Let's do the same thing again now using the big honkin' umbrella. One of my favorites to use. To do that, I'm going to require the use of both hands. I don't want to trip my cable up here, so I'm going to pull this off. What are we going to need? I'm going to need the flash. Pull this one over here. See, one of the things about having a lot of lights on set is you run into this all the time. And that's why that one photographer I mentioned before, he said, when you're thinking of using 2 flashes, use 1. When you're thinking of using 3, use 1. There's some truth to that because there's a lot of moving parts when you bring in 3, 4, and 5 flashes. It's just hard to get around the set. Okay, here we go. Same basic photo, but because this thing is so big, I had to move it back a little bit. We'll call that good. All right, here we go. And 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there we go. This one was nicer. That one's nicer too. Look at that. Look at how soft it is. Look at how kind and gentle it is. It's almost like you only need 1 modifier, 1 flash. Now, there's a few things I should have done a little bit better on this example. When you're using a small flash like this, that flash is only filling, I'll turn this to the camera so y'all can see, that flash is only filling a small surface area of this big, giant, massive umbrella. So a lot of times I like to use a diffusion dome on the flash head to cause the light to spread all throughout the umbrella. In fact, that's the better technique. So since I am actually teaching the appropriate techniques today, let's do everything right. So I'm going to grab a little diffusion dome over here. That one there will work. And that's just going to go here over the flash like that. And now when this flash fires, it will actually fill the whole inside of the umbrella up. And I'll just take one more shot and then we'll move on to the next lighting modifier. Okay. Camera's still connected, which is cool. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. For some reason, I'm not seeing that flash fire, but it looks like it did. Not a whole lot of difference, not a ton of difference, but we did use a larger percentage of the interior of the flash, of the umbrella. Yeah?
So a quick question. I saw you actually adjusting the distance of the flash to the umbrella. And DeMartini had asked, how does it matter where you position the flash inside the umbrella? How far back should the flash be positioned away from the umbrella itself?
Super question, and it's valid, it's important. So what we want is we want the interior of your lighting, of your diffusion, of your modifier. We want the interior of your modifier to be fully illuminated by the flash, by the light from that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to push my modeling light on the flash itself, and I look at the inside of my modifier and just try to visually tell if the entire surface area is being impacted by that light. If it's not, well, then I've got a few things I can adjust. A, I can push the shaft of my modifier forward or backward to fill that up. Or B, I can diffuse it here like I did with this diffusion dome a little bit more. You'll see when you're in a softbox, the same thing. If you look at the front of your softbox when you fire the flash, if only a small segment of that softbox is illuminated, well, inside then you need to get that light to spread out wider. So I just guesstimated to answer the question specifically, but I guesstimated with lots of experience.
Great. And one more question that a couple people had asked was about the zoom factor on the flash head itself, in terms of, do you put it at the widest? Do you change that based on what modifier you're using?
Great. As you all know, or most of you know who are using these little flashes, they have a head inside here that zooms. It's called a zooming head. And really what it is there's a little motor in there that moves the flash bulb forward or backward. When the flash bulb goes backwards, the light becomes more zoomed. When the flash bulb goes forward, it becomes more wide angle. So where should we set this? Well, my famous answer, it depends. It depends on the lighting modifier that you're using. On the back of the flash, typically there's a button, it's called zoom. On this one, it's on the LCD screen. It might be hard to tell on our studio cameras here, but basically you can push that zoom button and, oops, we went to sleep. And as you zoom it, you can see here it says, oh, you're at 120 millimeters, or I'm at 24 millimeters. So 24 millimeters means that it's a really wide angle coverage. And as I push the zoom button again, push a bunch of times, now we're at 85. Now we're at 135. The idea is that if you're using a lens on your camera and you've got your flash like this on the camera, that if you have an 85 millimeter lens, this will cover that 85 millimeter field of view. If you've got a 200 millimeter lens, it'll cover the 200 millimeter field of view. All right, that doesn't apply necessarily to this. So what zoom setting do we have to have in here? Super wide. Well, the widest is 24, and 24 millimeter zoom would be like that. So really we just need something mega wide. And so when you put these diffusion domes on, the zoom doesn't even really matter at that point. So the flash is smart enough that it detected that this little thing went on there. There's these little switches on the bottom of your flash. It says, oh, you've got the diffusion dome. It zoomed to 17, but really this thing makes it go all over the place.